doctor, a chiropractor, they go, "Oh, I have a pain right here," and they just do it. Like they just do it. If you're a massage therapist, they go, "My neck is really stiff. Can you give me a little?" It's hysterical. So, I'd say with me when they find out a relationship coach, bloop, they come up with instantly like, "Oh wow, so my boyfriend's always." Or he
Doing this,
never,
you know.
or he never, right? And it starts. It's funny. It's funny. One of my favorite stories. Get this. I was my sister's my family's in Montreal. My sister lives in Montreal. My parents are in Quebec City, right? So it's like New York to, it's like LA to uh San Diego. It's 2.5 hour drive. So I was spending a week with my sister. She was sick at the time, and I was going back to my parents' house over the weekend. The 2.5 hour, so a 2.5 hour drive, but I was taking the train. So we get to the Montreal train station where, like, like New York Central train station is people everywhere. It's big old building. It's really cool. Subways on top, subways, cars, trains, right? It's all kind of 3 stories. Anyway, my sister gets me there just 5 minutes too late, and when I get to the gate, the train is gone. Wah wah, right? So I call my mom.
Imagine.
My mom, she's like, it's mid afternoon, and she's like, "Oh my God, what are we gonna do? Where's the next train?" I go, "It's in 4.5 hours from now." "Oh my God, I feel so bad. What are you gonna do?" I'm like, "Are you kidding? There are people everywhere here,
Everywhere.
everywhere, just sitting, just sitting and waiting for their, you know what I mean?" I go, "I'm just gonna be just fine. I'll just wherever I sit next to, it'll start."
I know, and that's the thing, right? Like when I used to take the train, or even when I drive, people don't realize that you can have so much fun just waiting around and talking to people.
Seriously. She was upset for me that I was going to sit around 4.5 hours. I'm like, "Don't worry, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. I'm going to
Of
be all these
course.
people, And then I got on, I did, and I get on the train. I met other people, and then it's to me like, it's again, it's funny. It's fun, fun, fun. I think I'm curious. I like everybody naturally. Like I'm one of those, right? I'm extroverted. I like everyone, and I'm curious. So it's always a good time. Where you from?
Yeah,
Where you kind of da 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 da
yeah. For
da.
me, I remember where was I going? And I was just sitting there having a conversation. I guess someone saw they saw something that had me in it, some social media post, and they're like, "You talk about relationships, right?" I was like, "Yes." Like, you help people and you have guests that help people, right? I was like, "Yes." Well, my husband and I was like, "Oh God, are you doing this in the middle of?"
That's exactly what happens
Right?
on
I
the
know.
spot. Like if you tell them you're a
On the spot.
masseuse, if you tell you're a masseuse, they're gonna tell you rub my neck. That's a pain right here. What do you think that is? Is it not in the bottom of my back? Like there's just that's I think
It's
it's endearing.
crazy.
I think it's endearing because people just sort of I think the need to connect and have a conversation and just on and we talk relationships. Oh wow, so people are right there, right? Like because everyone's confused. It's really, really terrible out there. It's really terrible.
Yeah, it's tough. Like I had one of my friends, I don't know if you do this, but I made a rule, maybe probably the last year and a half, where like my friends, I won't coach them. Like if I've known a long time,
Yeah.
I won't even bother coaching them. Like so one of my friends, she came and she was telling me about like her husband because they're going through issues. And I'm actually friends with both of them. I was like, nope, let me stop you right there. I was like, I don't know if I could get in the middle of this, right? Because she's doing a lot and there's some things that he doesn't know. And then sometimes it's like, oh,
Mm.
you tell them because you're friends, but you can't. What do you
That's
do
it.
in that
That is
situation?
no, I'm, for me, I'm always on the side of the truth, and I'm the one who has to tell the truth. So I'm not trying, so even my friends, they know that if you're gonna bring me up like a situation, I'll tell you what I think you should do. Not per necessarily you know, my opinion, but it's in this demo in the realm of the work that I do. I have so much data and there's so much like it's the work, right? So if you're gonna act like this, expect this to happen. I'm just saying you could do, make your choices, but this will create this. And if you think that's a good idea, go ahead. But I wouldn't, And if they actually done the thing, I go, that was a terrible mistake. You're probably gonna have to clean that up. You're probably gonna have to clean that up. And they don't want to hear that, but I'm not I don't think was it placating? Is that the word to people like
Yeah,
just sort of
placating to them.
flaking into them, I think, is not doing them a service, and I can't. I honestly, I can't. So I won't go after you to tell you, what I think you should do, even if you're a friend of mine. But if you ask me, I'm right there. And it's your
I think
responsibility.
that was my toughest thing because I'm like, do I really want to get in the middle of this because it's been going bad for so long,
Mm, right.
right?
But the only thing is just delicate. So you don't want to give them advice, right? Because if you do get advice, and then now you're in the middle, and they're going to say, "Well, Terrain said," but I thought we're not the Terrain. Terrain, he said, right? And now you're taking sides just out of it, right? Don't give advice.
Yeah,
I
just
would
yeah,
probably think of it this
objective
way,
truth.
right? And or flip it where it's not, this is what I think. Do whatever you want, right?
That's a good point.
So don't give advice because they'll turn it on you, especially your friends, right? Because it's going to come back to you.
Yeah, I remember before I got all this training, before I was enlightened, when I was still, what's that word those youngsters call? When I was still simping,
Yeah. Oh, brother. Ah,
right? Back in
oh,
those days, I remember I
yep.
got involved in that, and the person I must have been, I'm in my mid 30s now, so it's probably 14 years ago.
Mm,
The guy still hates me to this day, and the
yep.
girl he was dating, well, I think they were just friends with benefits.
Right.
She was doing that with everyone, but he didn't want to hear it. And it was something she came up to me as she like kind of make sure none of my exes are listening to this. She kind of propositioned me and I turned her down and I went and I told him the same day. And he was like, yeah, thank you for telling me. I appreciate it. Where I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And then a couple of days later, he ends up hitting me. He's like, there was a time where you guys were at this boat cruise and you guys looked at each other this way. I was like, yeah, you were at that boat cruise too. Like, here's the picture. I'm like, you're
So
in the picture.
yeah. So he, interesting. I'm gonna guess here if I may, because I can.
Yeah.
You know,
Go ahead. That's why you're here, right?
well, yeah, sure. So people will turn on you when you tell them the truth. Or basically you're tapping into their insecurities, and instead of like taking responsibility and go looking into it, they kind of turn it on you. So you know what I mean? He whatever it is that he was missing, and realized that she was a little shady, he made it your fault because it couldn't be his fault. Like that's a cop out, and then blaming just playing victim basically, as opposed to going, what's the truth? What's really happened? How am I part of this? How am I
Yeah.
participating in this? Because I have this thing, and I teach everybody this, or I get everybody to consider this because it's not the truth, but it's an interesting way to look at things. If if just watch what happens to your brain when you consider it. If you consider that everything that comes to you, around you, that happens with you, if you consider just the thought of it, that you're actually the one making it happen or actively participating in this happening, do you know what I mean? If you take responsibility for whatever is going on, that you probably, if you think of it, it's not true necessarily. It's just a thought. It's a way to deal with stuff coming at you, good and bad, right? But the bad stuff is the one that bends out of shape. So if something comes at you that's sideways, so instead of getting all mad and pissed off and decide to blame and what the hell is this for? If you consider, maybe I have something to do with this. Maybe I participated in creating this. You go from victim and mad and lose your temper for no reason. It's a waste of time. It changes nothing, right? To, well, then what's in my hands? If I created this somehow, how can I manage this? How do I get this handled? And it puts you instantly in a position of power. Just that thought. Do you know what I mean? So things comes at us all the time. You can get mad, it won't help. You can have a fit, you look ridiculous, right? You can lose your temper. Now you're acting like a girl. Like nobody can respect that. It's not cute. No, nobody wants to see a guy lose his shit. It's ridiculous, right? It's embarrassing, really. So let's say so let me see if I made this happen, what's in my hands? And I'm telling you, it changes the game completely. it doesn't even have to be on you, but if you consider it, it gives you power and empowers you, and then you typically can come up with a solution to manage, to stop it, to whatever. It's just
Oh
interesting
yeah.
thinking.
It's interesting to see how that happened, especially that he ended up getting married and everything. And I think last time I spoke to her was maybe a few years back. There was like a 10-year gap between when her and I spoke because there's nothing. I didn't want anything from her.
Right.
And to think that he's still married and I think he may be trying to have a kid or anything like that, it's still, I hate you terrain because back when we were 21,
Yeah. Yeah.
the girls,
So my words would be like, it's probably time to get over that.
I moved on. I didn't even know, to be honest, the only reason I found out that he doesn't like me is because I ran into him with a couple of friends and some mutual friend probably like 5 years ago. And they're like, oh, yeah, do you know him? I was like, yeah, we used to like work together and so on and so forth. They're like, yeah, he doesn't like you. I was like, oh, that's news to me.
And what
Because I've moved on.
right, and what do you do with that, honestly? Like what do you do with that? Like, so what? Okay, so and right,
You move
seriously,
on.
like I've had this is silly, and it's not a necessarily deep conversation, but like I look like this. So people kind of curious typically. They look at me and they're trying to figure out what's going on. I get it. But now and then there'll be a woman who looks looks to me with such disdain, such like right, like like it's palatable, you know what I mean? And people around me will notice and they go, dude, that girl's hating on you. And I go, so what? Right. And because whatever she's going through, I remind her of the guy who like played with her and dropped her or never called her back, whatever. I look like a musician, right? So musicians are known for being musicians. So she's projecting on me what she's experienced from a guy probably that looked like me. I get it. What am I supposed to do with that? You know what I mean? She's literally hating on me just because I remind her of and or she thinks I think I'm cool, whatever, right? And I go, I can't do anything with this. So because if you talk to me for like 3 minutes, you'll realize who I am, and the way I look has nothing to do with who I am necessarily. Right. So, but if you're going to hate on me without knowing me, please, thank you. Stay away from me. Do me a favor. Stay right there. Hate all you want. That's your game. That's your story, not mine. I know who I am.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
It always comes from the bottom and from a distance. So if you're going to do that, do that. So my first question actually that someone sent
sir,
me
yes,
on
sir.
TikTok,
Love it.
this person asked me a question, I answered it, but I'm going to pose it to you, is that when I go on dates,
Yes.
men barely ask me any questions about me. In
Uh,
fact, they barely speak.
well, these are two different questions, by the way. Those are two different statements.
Yeah,
So,
so she's wondering why men don't speak to her about her and what she has to offer, and why do men spend such little time talking about things that will pertain to the relationship?
well, natural masculine men tend to be stoic. It's a good quality, and sometimes it doesn't really help, right? Where women are all about their feelings, and part of the ways that women connect is by talking, 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 talking. And for us, sometimes it's sometimes baffling how much talking they could do because we don't know why they're talking because there's no seems to be a pattern or reason sometimes because it's not the point that matters to women talking together. It's just the talking that bonds them together. So we tend to speak for a reason. We typically speak to share information, tell a joke, and that's about it. I mean, like, there's something you need to know. There it is, and I'm done. Like, we don't speak for connection. So I remember my wife when we first met. We'd be sitting in the car, and we get to know each other. But she's a girl. As a girl, she needs to talk to feel safe, to feel connected, right? So, but I'm a guy. I don't speak just for the sake of speaking. It's actually for most of us men, talking is a spent of energy. So we do just what's needed. We don't do it for fun. We don't do it for sports. We don't need a connection that way. That's not how we connect. So we don't, right? And men, like you and I could go to, like, I'm in Los Angeles. You and I could get in my car, drive 5 hours to Vegas. You and I, side by side, not say one word to each other, be totally fine, right? Get on the other side and high five. Great trip, right? Unthinkable for a woman. It would be so uncomfortable to sit in the car not talking to you. She would feel disconnected, awkward. Eventually, she can't breathe. She's so uncomfortable, right? So I'm in the car with my wife. This is when we started dating. And, we'd be blah, 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 blah. I get in the car, boom, I get going. The moment I get in the car, my brain goes on cruise control because I know where I'm going. And, you don't really think when you're driving a car. You're just kind of in action. And then my brain will go up to, whoop, like the guy, right? I go up in my head thinking about the motorcycle or where I'm going to store the other car or like this. We're very heady naturally. Men are stoic in our heads. And so we're driving the car and everything's fine. We're on our way to something and she's quiet because I'm quiet. And this is before I knew all this, obviously. And she go within like 5 or 6 minutes, she go, um, are you mad at me? And I go, what? Where? Because I wasn't talking to her because a woman on woman, right? If a girl doesn't talk to another girl, she's in trouble. Something's wrong. She doesn't trust her, right? She's mad at her. So often we project on each other, right? So what I'm saying here is men speak less, men are stoic, men often sort of give you the short answers to everything. And again, on a date, if the guy is a little bit awkward, shy, or nervous, right, that's going to get even shorter because he doesn't want to put his foot in it. Excuse me. So, two things. So, if he's not asking you questions, he's not really curious about you. That's to me a bit of a red flag because a man who's interested in a woman, now again, assuming that he's not nervous, excuse me, there's something in my throat. Assuming he's not nervous, right, or that there's anything really going on, I'm so sorry. A man will try to find out who the girl is, what she's interested in, excuse me, what her interests are in life, like wants to dig in a little bit to find out if it may be a fit with her. Excuse me, I'm choking on something here.
Yeah, as you do that, well, what I answered is that I told the person that, you know what, the person isn't really that focused into you because they don't care enough to even ask anything about you. And I also shared that one thing you would want to do is if you truly want to have that type of conversation with someone, find someone that's interesting, that's interested in you. Or maybe you are just not that interested. And
Yeah.
the men are able to get what they want from you without even engaging in any type of
Yep.
conversation. Right?
So yeah, so a guy who doesn't ask questions, he's either awkward, doesn't care that much, not a whole lot of chemistry, doesn't really feel that he could kind of grab onto you, like kind of you can tell maybe that's not really going to go anywhere, so that goes flat. On the other hand, the guy who always talks about himself only and doesn't ask anything personal of you is pretty much sort of peacocking for you and trying to impress you with his greatness. And in my world, that's called a boy. It's not a man who has really much interest in
Yes.
you.
Ladies, do us both a favor. Actually, no, don't even do us a favor because we are going to continue to live happily ever after in our
Regardless,
own worlds,
regardless, right?
regardless, right?
Regardless.
Do
Yep.
yourselves a favor. Don't date these boys. And if you're confused what a boy is, he is someone that hasn't taken his life seriously. He hasn't made his dent in the world. He has no idea what's going on, right? So he's probably right now playing video games instead of listening to this.
Yep.
He's his mom
Yep.
still does his laundry. You know what?
Hmm.
He's always unemployed. Can I borrow your car? Can you give me $500 to go here, go there?
I'll pay you back,
Describe
but
them,
never
Andre.
does. Yeah, no. They they don't want to take care of you. They don't want to pay for you. They don't want to be responsible for you or really anybody in life. They live small. I can say they've been overly mothered and babied, and they want you, ladies, to keep him comfortable. They flip the script on nature. They want women to take care of them. They want women to baby them. They want to be mothered. So, these are the guys who will knock on your door one day and say, my landlord's a douche. So can I stay here for a couple of weeks? And moves right in. Will never pay rent. He will borrow money, says he's going to pay you back. You'll never see that money. Right? He quits his job because his boss, a douche, another douche, right? There are douches everywhere. Life is very hard for these guys. I'm telling you, it's very, very complicated. And with most women are nice and like if you got tangled with a guy like this, you're gonna want to help. You're gonna want to help, and he's gonna make right. So right? So now he's living on your couch, or he's living in your house, borrowing money. He's driving your car because he can't afford to fix this piece of crap. I've had one like she was walking his freaking dog because he wouldn't walk his dog, so he moves his dog in, and she's the one walking the dog, playing his mother, right? Doing now the reason why women get caught up in these guys is because they're actually very seductive. They know what to say to wrap you around their little finger. You know, they're a good, sweet talker, right? They're a con man. So they basically just know exactly what to say to appeal to all your teenage fantasies as a girl. And they talk a lot, which makes you feel safe and connected. I knew this. I knew one existed. I knew one existed. They could talk, share his feelings with me, right? And 6 months later, you wonder what happened to your life.
Oh
Because
yeah,
now,
he's the type of person that your dream will become his dream. He'll take away all your passions,
yep,
and you will find yourself, and especially, and this goes out to the ladies who have kids. What you got to find out is if you have two children, he will become your third.
yep,
Right?
absolutely.
He will resemble the children you have, and it will come to the point where he's actually fighting for your your attention and your
Yeah.
resources when it comes to your other children.
Yeah, it's funny because as much as masculine men provide, protect, cherish, give support, right, to the women and the children in the world and everybody who needs help, that's what men do. They come to rescue, to save, to provide, protect. That's just what we do. Like, if your car breaks down on the side of the road, it's not a woman who's going to pull over to help you, ladies. It's going to be a guy. Because it's too dangerous for a woman. I'm not blaming women for this. I'm saying it's too dangerous. It could be a trap, right? She's not putting herself in danger for a stranger. She can't, right? It's unnatural. But a guy will pull over in a second just to make sure that, whoa, maybe I could help and make sure that she's safe and maybe she's not all freaked out. And after the first guy pulls over, it's going to be a second one right behind him to make sure that guy's not a douche or dangerous, right? Like that's what men do. So men protect, provide, protect, and cherish women, children, everybody that's needs help, animals, the planet, whatever. Like men step up. That's what we do instinctively, naturally. So we give. We're givers and protectors. Boys take. Ladies, they just, you'll know how to, they just take from you. They take your time, they take your advice, they take your attention, they take your money, they take your sex. They take, 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 take. And if you dare to ask for something back, oh, well, that's your problem. You're too needy. You don't understand how hard it is for him. Blah, I could go on all day long. So, ladies, please, there's a third of the guys out there that are boys. Now, there's a big number. A third of men in our culture now are these little girls with penises, right? So but all you need to learn is how to avoid them, right? This part of the work that I do is I teach ladies. The first thing I teach how to spot those guys because those are the one who are slick. They're slick. They're really good at this. But these are the guys who are going to ruin your life, and you're going to think that's men. That's not men. That's boys. And it leaves 2/3 of the rest of us as men. So again, you have to learn how to pick them, and don't let them seduce you. You'll know because they say everything the right way. They say everything right very, very quickly, very quick. Everything you want to hear too fast because a real man will move towards you slowly. It will take his time. He's going to get to know you gently and slowly and one day at a time, one date at a time. These guys, I had a guy try to seduce one of my clients on the second date. Get this. This is what they do, ladies. I want you to pay attention. It's not romantic. It's bullshit. Second date, he says, I finally know what true love is after meeting you. I'm like, I threw up in my mouth. But for a second, she was trained enough that she looked at me. She was, "What are you talking about?" And you just like that usually works, right? So it didn't work on her, but this is what they do. This is what they do. And again, you'll
Yes.
think that, anyways, that
So I
they're
was, yeah,
terrible.
it is, and I'll segue because that's a perfect segue to this next question. Is
Okay.
that sorry, I just had it here where they're talking about why do women feel so entitled to an expensive first date?
That's
You take that
uh
first, Andre.
well, I think it's cultural. I think there's, no, men like to be gentlemen. Do you know what I mean? And there's something to say about this, right? Open doors and pay for dinner and make the date and make the plan, right? It's gentlemanly, that's fine. But if you expect me to do it, like I want to do it because I want to. I want to do it because, now that I know you a little bit more, I'm gonna I'm gonna treat us, right? We're gonna step it up like restaurant wise. But if you think, what I first my first date with my wife, are you ready? I was just talking about this early this afternoon with my boys. The first date with my wife, I just finished, I was at the gym and I said, I'll be coming from the gym. I'll pick you up, right? I'll pick you up because she's finishing work, whatever. But I said, I'm coming from the gym. Don't get dressed up. I right. So I literally just in my sweat pants and my sweaty t-shirt, I switched t-shirt in the car. I picked her up and I bought her a slice of pizza and a Diet Coke. Period. Because to me, and I'll get this, because I don't want anybody to pretend anything with me. I don't want you to be all dressed up on your best behavior, posing, you know what I mean? And I don't know you. I want to know who you are. So let's sit down, have a slice of pizza, and get to know you. Right. And that was my first date. Now, obviously, she's my wife now. you know, that got upgraded as she got to be more important with me, to me. You know what I mean? The fancy dinners came later on, but to me, up front, to me, and people can think differently. Some guys use their money that's their idea of swag. That's how they impress women. Do you know what I mean? If you have it and you want to blow her mind and pick her up in limo, all right, that's really not my style. Because again, it sets you up for, you know, one of my buddies, another buddies from the gym, flashes a lot of money, and that's what he does. He impresses women with money. He's a little short guy, so he's compensating. I totally see it. I get it. And then he complains that they take him for they only want him for his money. I'm like, you train her that way. You pay for everything, and he takes out her whole family and pays for dinner. Like he got the mother, and like the limo and stuff. And I'm like, what are you trying to prove? Like, are you that insecure? But he does have the money, so he can. But at the same time, does she really like me, or does she like my cash? Because every time he does this, within a few months, he pulls back a little bit because he buys presents, and he's one of those. He's insecure. And the moment he starts pulling back and says, "Well, why don't you make dinner or whatever?" He changes the rules, and the girl's like, "What the hell's going on?" Right? He's like, "See, they only want my money." I'm like, "Well, you did it for 6 months, and now you change the rule." That's kind of so. I think women's fantasy world often think, Prince Charming should come in and just like give her the sweeping evening, with the grand piano and all that stuff. And the reality is that's not really how we do. And some guys do it. I get it. And you'll hear about this from your girlfriend who gets that experience. It doesn't mean necessarily that's really the go-to. I'm just saying.
Yeah, for me, I'll answer that question saying that similar to what Andre was sharing is if you're going to lead with something, and a lot of men who lead with money, there's probably some insecurity there for whatever the reason. So they're going to lead with money. And when they set that expectation, they're always going to default to that. So for the women out there who are going on a lot more dates than guys these days, because it's easier for them to have access
Yep.
to that.
Yep.
Once again, ladies, you have access. You allow access to sex. Men allow access to relationships.
Ooh,
Is
where'd you
that
learn that from?
not from you, my friend?
That's something that comes straight out of my mouth. Yes.
I know, right? And I said it just like how he would say it anyway, too. So when you set that expectation, this is where I push back on the men. I was like, man, if you're going to spend all that money on women and you're going to set the expectation that if they're going on 5 dates a week and you're always paying for $300, $400 dinners, guy number six is going to have an expectation set on him that he didn't agree to. So,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know, I would just say that to that person who asked the question, women are entitled because men enable them a lot of ways, a lot of
Mhm.
times. And, you know, if they can get it, the question is why not, right?
Yeah, but I'm seeing the things. I'm not sure they get it as much as they think, or they allure that they get it. Because what I'm noticing now is because of social media. If you're a girl and you could put 16 filters on your photos and you all look, like a supermodel. It's not the reality, and this is men really resent, by the way. So, but the idea of getting attention from social media because you post pictures of your butt at the gym and your push-up bra and your freaking eyelashes and all that, you get attention, of course, because men are visual. But I think it gives women the illusion that they're a lot more valuable is the right word, I guess I want to say, or that they have so many options because they have 200 guys following them and liking their pictures. Well, you know what? Like, if you're a gay guy and you have a good body, you just put your body online and you get the same kind of thing, right? Like you're selling the goods and you're showing the goods, but is anybody wifing you up, ladies, right? Like, is anybody right? You can get attention. So what I'm saying here is that women get so much attention in social media with all the things that they do that the attention they're getting, they think that gives them choices. With 200 guys, sometimes they even send them money, right? That they have choices. So then you could weed out and wait for the guy who does, you know, we call it like the three sixes, right? 6 feet tall, six figure. I mean, what's the other six? Whatever.
6 inches.
So, yeah, yeah. That's much. That's much of. That's not saying a lot, but what is this? 6 foot tall, six figure, whatever, the three sixes. Anyway, women expect the top guys all the time, and the top guys, will be the top guys and afford these kind of evenings, and maybe they date that way because they get laid that way, and that's the $200 is worth getting laid. But getting laid doesn't mean you're valuable, ladies. It means that you're available. I mean, like, if nobody's wifing you up, you can get laid every night. Somebody could buy you dinner every night. That doesn't make you much more than that, right? That the high value men aren't looking for one night stand, aren't looking for cheap sex, aren't looking for, but the ones that have money, have all the options. I'm saying I think women have expectations of the stories they hear or the way it should be, but the reality is, mm, there's not a ton of that going on, I feel.
Yeah, I think if I based on my observation and the women I speak to, is that they're very aware of some of the expectations that other women have, like how
Mm,
high it has come. And to your point, right? Like there's some women who look at the three sixes as 6 feet, six figures, and a six pack
six pack.
because they want
That's
the
what it was.
man,
Six pack. That's what it was.
right? Right. Some women who are very sexual, they'll exchange a six pack for 6 inches,
Yep.
whatever. But they would look at it as, well, he's here tonight, and that's better than maybe last week when I didn't have anyone because my bed was cold. And I remember someone asking me a question. This wasn't today, but this ties in. This was maybe a week ago, where she was saying that I can have a relationship because guys hit on me all the time. And then I asked her the question, what does that mean?
Right.
And then she turned around and she said that, well, I'm getting the attention. And here's the question now. Doesn't that mean I can get a relationship, Andre?
No. You know what I'm gonna say probably, right? Ladies,
I know
this
what
is
I said. What are you going
this
to say?
right. So this is a mistake that younger women make a lot, but not necessarily younger women, but you'll see teenagers make that mistake a lot, a lot, a lot with their scandalous little shorts of their crack and their bikini tops at the mall, right? The women, young girls, but like a lot of women think that attention will get them affection. Right? That's the idea. So if I keep people, all the other girls, my boobs are bigger, I could flash them more. If my pants are tighter, if I have that thing up my crack at the gym and bending over in front of the guys in front of the dumbbell bar, right? Like, oh, you get attention, all right. Get attention everywhere you go. But they think that means a guy is going to step up and, like wife her up or like ask you for a relationship. Where to us, if when you're trying to get attention too hard, you look cheap, you look insecure, and you will get attention, all right, but you only get introduced to a little bit. The part of me that's interested in that, you're not going to get my heart. So this is where the mistake that women do a lot. They think that getting attention is a way to no. This this is a way to get attention to attract the right energy, right? Because men have two default, a girl to play with and a girl to build with. And if you look like the cheap girl to play with and you look too easy or too desperate or too needy for attention and too much, or you're competing with all the other girls, you need all the attention in the room. Oh, you'll get his attention. You'll never get his affection, right? And this is really confusing for ladies. So that's there's a girl at my gym, and I have to say this, and I spend 5 days a week in the gym. That's why I have a lot of gym stories. But she's a trainer, right? So she's on her third set of boobs. They're much too big for her little frame. She's in great shape. She's in great shape. I'm really like the just, but she always has her boobs hanging out, pushed up under her chin, and her pants down to the top of the crack of her butt, and she has a tramp stamp this big. So you see the top of her crack literally all the time. So she's naked from the butt up, right to the boobs, and the boobs are literally under her chin. And and she's too old for all that, first of all, right? So she's dressed like a teenager, but and she's like, guys my age don't get me at all. I'm like, honey, 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 look in the mirror. Like, you look cheap. She's trying to be sexy. I get it. She's trying to get attention. That's all she has to offer in her mind. It's not really true, but she said, like I said, she's approaching everyone. Her energy is temptress, 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 right? She's seducing all the men. She wants all the attention, and she wants to intimidate all the girls. That's not feminine, by the way. That's very manly. But anyway, so she says to me, like, guys my age don't get me. I go, yeah, who would take you home to their mother to meet their family looking like this? Look what you're wearing. No, she could take it from me because I know her well, and but she can't help, like, that's the only way she knows to operate. I go, honey, if the same body, if you put that in a turtleneck and a pencil skirt, you would freaking stop traffic in a classy way. You would stop traffic. She's a beautiful figure, but she's too sexual. She's too overtly in your face, So she gets all the young guys' tongue to hang out, and the men who are really more in her age bracket who could take care of her, be good men to her, just can't take her seriously. And she doesn't get it. And she's a smart lady. She's not stupid. She just needs so much attention that she gets attention from a 25-year-old. And that's sad. I think it's sad. Again, her idea of sexy is trashy. True sexiness is packaged well and modestly. You can show all your curves, but wrapped appropriately. I'm just saying, men like
Well, I
classy
guess,
women.
yeah, I guess for me, then, I guess the question would be for you, why do you think women confuse the two between sexy and being over the top with it? I can
Ah,
answer after you do.
yeah. Well, they don't do this for us, by the way. I mean, to a degree, but they do this for each other. Do you know what I mean? Women compete with each other much more than they compete. Like that's where they compete. Why we compete, in different realms, but women compete with each other all the time. So I think all of that kind of trying to be better than the next girl or that's why they do the eyelashes, the hair extensions, the makeup, right? The the boobs and the butt fill up, and like they're just trying to get on top of like the pyramid of beauty, not knowing that at one point it goes beyond beauty. Now it's not pretty. Now you look worked. Now you look worked, and it looks weird, and again it shows you insecurities, and everybody's got insecurities. But I call it, if you can have the misfortune to mess with your body and your face because you have money, like that's the misfortune, you know. And what you're signaling is literally that you're nothing more than a body and an insecure body and trying to get all the attention. Then again, even good guys, will show up with their penis in their hands when they meet you. Like they don't do this with regular women, but if you're going to be that, if you're going to bring that energy forward, you get their bodies to react exactly. So you get the little head and not the big head. It's just nature. I mean, and most women they don't understand that. They confuse that. They can't, again, attention to get affection, attention, the wrong kind of attention just give you the sexual attention, not the heart. It's kind of a and I guess it's a really blind spot for most women. Even the ones who don't do that don't really understand why men will choose to play with them as opposed to build with them. And that's a big blind spot for ladies and something they have to learn because it's not that complicated, but most men really can't explain it, right? There's a yes or no, right? We're very, very binary. Like, how many times did I hear this? So how'd your date go? It was all right. What happened? I don't know. She was all right. She was pretty, but, she hates dating. You picked that up. Something was off on the other side. So it's a no. If she's trying too hard, that's a no. Like it's this, so it's delicate. Men can describe it. I can explain it because it's the work that I do, and that's why I teach the ladies. Like, this is how men date. This is what they're looking for. This is how you want to show up. This is why you do, this is what you want to do. This is what you don't do, right? And watch his instinct just kick right in. But most don't know how to do any of that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, my answer would be that if you're going to lead with something, and in this case, if the woman's going to lead with her body, then that's going to be the focus of the interaction with the man that you deal with
Good.
every single time. So if you're going to go to a man and say that, hey, here I am with my halter top and with my cleavage out and with my thong showing and all this other stuff, then you're going to attract the man that's only going to focus on that. You're not going to build with those men because they're only going to be looking at you in one single way. And that
Right.
way is you look this way, in my mind, in my male mind, I think that you're cheap. I think that you're easy. I think that you're whatever. Even if it's totally the wrong perception of you, even though you're complete opposite of that. If that is your presentation, if that is your rapping, a lot of guys are going to look at you and say that, you know what? I think this woman is for a good time, not for a long time.
Yep.
And if you're only going to be viewed that way publicly, then it's going to be hard for a lot of women to accept that as their reality, because when they are going to realize that they no longer want to be that way, 30, I'm 40,
Too
I'm
late.
50.
Too late.
I've been at the cougar bars for far too long.
Yep.
My children are starting to see them in the clubs now, and now two generations of my family are in there together. I don't know, you've seen that. I've seen it. I've seen a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter in the club at the same time, all chasing
Oh,
after the
brother.
same men.
Yep.
And it's like, where are the fathers in that situation? Because that's three generations of fathers that are somewhere. But
Well, missing.
it's sad. Yeah, it's sad to see, because men will start becoming serious late, and I think something happens to women where they just coast, because the ones who are going to show their bodies out there, who are going to lead with it, they get just enough attention for them not to change.
Right. Right. And so I think it works just like the girl at the gym, right? That she's way too old to dress like this, but it works for her, and that's her go-to. That's her identity. And it's funny because I seen it in public one time, like out in the world, because she's always at the gym. She's a trainer. So she dresses like this at the gym. It's too much even for the gym. But I saw her in public. She looks the same. Like she's just she looks the same. Like uh, so her insecurities, because I told her again, smart woman. She's not stupid. But for some reason, right, the archetype of a female has comes in four. There's like the mother, the queen, the temptress, and we'll call it the grounder woman, a woman who knows who she is and has boundaries, and is what do you call it, grounder woman, right? This woman leads with temptress all the time. That's what she thinks. That's the only value I think she thinks that she has. So she brings that forth, right? Because she's no mother and she's no, queen. Like, she doesn't have those profound qualities, deeper qualities, but she's got a turbo body, and she was probably looking like this at 14, and it became a habit. But, again, the calibration is so over the top, and she's like, I'm telling you, she she gets the wrong attention all the time from men, and she says, men all. She caught me looking at her uh, tramp stamp one time when she was bending over in front of me, and it was she caught me in the mirror looking at her butt, right? And she's like, I saw that. I'm like, what? Oh, no, oh, you're offended? What do you mean? Like, your ass is hanging out in my face, bending over, but you're gonna play offended like I'm a pig? Like, hello, like, you got to take responsibilities for stuff, right? And I'm not saying she's asking for it. I say she's presenting in a way that makes her look cheap. But then you can't get mad that we look at your cleavage and your butt crack, because it's constantly out. It's
Eyes
it's
to
like,
the sky, Andre. Eyes to the sky.
well, I'm a guy, so I almost don't control that. There's this, like, for us, like, women don't realize this, men don't even realize this. They beat themselves up over it. But do you realize that our eyes are built to seek out the feminine form in the world at all times? Scanning. No, it's an instinct. It's not something I'm doing on purpose. I'm not a pig. The same way that we're constantly scanning, first of all. So this is how you spot the Ferrari on the freeway with 400 cars all around you. Boom, red Ferrari, right? You spotted it 3 blocks away because it's a Ferrari, right? Like there's a catching what's beautiful, we're catching what is feminine. So I could be holding my wife's hand at the mall and I'm scanning for environment naturally, of course, for safety. But then, boop, there's a girl with the high heels and a little skirt, working it. But my wife is secure enough that I can squeeze her hand and go, look at her. She's working it. And she's like, oh, wow, yeah, she's cute. Right? She doesn't make me wrong for noticing, right? This is part of how we build. We're visual creature. Now, I'm not saying, you know, a woman who a woman who doesn't appreciate that, like I said, we don't do it on purpose, but you can't call me names from noticing the red Ferrari. I like the Ferrari. I see the Ferrari. It doesn't mean I want to go get the Ferrari. I don't want to maintain it. I don't want to pay for it. Blah, 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 blah. Just saying. So
Yeah.
nature, nature.
How should a woman know if a relationship is worth saving?
What a question. I, I think I, you know, in my world, you have to know what you're dealing with, right? So women have different expectations. Women have often over the top expectations, right? In a world now where we talk about equality all the time, equality, 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 right? Everything's supposed equal rights, equal pay. I get that, of course. But it's kind of transgressed into a place where men and women are supposed to be equal, like act the same. Now, equally important is what I say, but now it's translated into a man to be a good man needs to be sweet, sensitive, vulnerable, right, talkative. No, that's your girlfriend. That's never going to be a real man. A boy will do that with you just to get you, wrapped around his little finger, but that's men don't act that way instinctively, naturally, right? But women actually will send the signal that unless a guy is sweet, sensitive, talkative, and vulnerable, that are interested because that's how women are. Is that it would work better for a woman if the guy was like this, but that's not life. That's not reality. That's not nature. It's unnatural. Your girlfriend can do this. A real man can't. It won't. It's impossible. It's the wrong. You have the wrong person. And on the other side, women are supposed to be strong, independent, and powerful, to be respectful and be productive. And go, girl, boss, babe is the way to go. Otherwise, you're much better than being a wife and a mother, right? Like, that's beyond you. Well, how's this gonna work, right? Like, so expectations, what is it you want? What kind of personality you have, and who can match your who could be your yin to your yang is really what you're looking at. So if you're attracted to a boy and he keeps letting you down and letting you down, people show you who they are very, 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 very quickly. You don't need 3 years to figure out who you're dealing with. Typically 3 months, over 3 months. Well, the first 3 months everybody's behaving, but over 3 months, 6 months, people kind of like let the facade come down and you know what you're dealing with. If somebody's always late, they're late. That's who they are, right? If they make promises, don't keep them, that's who they are. Like, we make excuses. We try to see one of the things that I see women more than men do is women do. Men don't really do this, not real men anyway. Like they see the potential and they hang on to the potential, right? The guy is a douchebag 90% of the time. He lets her down. He hurts her feelings. He's not present. He's not helping. He doesn't seem to care. But sometimes he does. And sometimes he's sweet. And sometimes he's kind. You say, it's in there. It's in there. I see it. It's in there. But he's showing you 10%. You get 90% that, well, that's who he is. 10% of the time, he's going to have good moments. The rest of the time, this is who he is. You're not going to make him more of that, right? So women often get attached to the potential that they see. If you just worked a little harder, if you just a little more, if you just apply himself, if you just, and they try to lean into him and help him, that becomes his mother. That doesn't work. Not, you can't. So again, what is this relationship worth saving? Do you even have the right dynamic first? If the problem is you're not communicating, right? Because we all struggle with this. If you have chemistry, you're compatible, you want the same thing long term, right? So you're on the right track. if you can't communicate your wants and needs without fighting, right? That's something that you could learn. That's part of what I would do as well. Like the learning, the communication tools are important to be able to have adult to adult conversation without triggering each other. So if somebody's a narcissist, which means no matter what you ask them to adjust respectfully for, they make it your fault. You're too this, you're too that, you're too demanding, you're too sensitive, you need to stop, you need to handle yourself, you need to take care of that yourself. This is going to be the rest of your life. So, narcissists, you have to run away as soon as you can. And there's a very simple way to figure out a narcissist in my world. It's part of the script that I share. Uh, but the rest of it is like, you know, is if the guy is good 60% of the time, and 40% of the time he's torturing you, if you feel disconnected on, is that enough for you to hang in there? You tell me. Like, who's to say when to carry on the relationship? Like, who's to say, everybody's got the level of pain that they could take or discomfort. So it's a really vague question. If I work with a couple, we dive in on both sides really quickly and find out what the trouble is, if it's fixable. Because the only thing, like I said, if it's narcissist or she's a narcissist, get out of town quick, run now, because you can't negotiate or deal, and they won't negotiate. You can't reason with them. It's always their way. So you're always going to lose. He's a 10 and you're a 0. You're a doormat, and that doesn't make for a good life. That's one. The other side of it is if some people have not negotiated or had a conversation about compatibility deep enough. That's very interesting. Again, in my world, you have to have three things in order for a relationship to go long term. Chemistry, which is nature, body to body, can't make any more. You have it or you don't with each other, period. Sometimes you'll have it for him, you won't have it for you. Move on. I won't. So you need chemistry on both sides. You need compatibility. This is the one I'm talking about that's very tricky. Communication, you can learn. That's part of my work. But compatibility sometimes is tricky because if if you have sex with somebody quickly and too quickly, and there is such a thing, you and I know this, right? If you go on 3 days and you like him and he likes you and he says you want to come upstairs, it's too quick. And the reason why I'm saying this, not because I'm a moralist, but the problem with sex, before knowing somebody, because you don't know somebody you've been out three times on a date. You don't know them. You don't know their last name. You don't know their middle name. You don't know their history. You don't know their mothers, their parents, their lives. Right? You don't know enough. You don't know them. And you go lay down with them. What happens is the sex will bond you chemically, and you will feel, there's the feel word for the ladies, and the men as well. They get hooked on the dopamine. You'll both feel that you're compatible, but it's an illusion. You understand that? So you will connect, you get all the good juices, and you keep having sex, and most people think they're starting a relationship because intimacy started. It's an illusion. Quick sex give you an illusion of connection and bonding and compatibility, and then you find out 7 months later, right, that he's an alcoholic. But you bonded with him and you're in love with him and you moved in already, right? But you didn't take the time to know, if there's deal breakers somewhere. It takes 9 months, by the way, even to find out if there's a deal breaker in a dynamic. 9 months, not 3 months, 9 months. You have to know somebody 9 months to figure out things that are quirky about them that doesn't work, and to find out if they're just quirky or they're deal breakers. So, but the problem with having sex really quickly, even it gives you an illusion. You get caught up in them, and you find out months and months and months later, or years later, that you're not compatible because you didn't take the time to figure out if you're compatible. Like sitting up, standing up. You went to lay down, and you took all that out the window, and you're discovering too late that you're not compatible. I had a client that, they fell in love, and they same thing. This story. And they were on the track to get married, and she found out that his dream his entire life is to retire in Australia. She never knew that. And she's like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Yeah, that's my life since I was 7 years old. Go back to my roots, as my ancestors are from there, and I'm going back." She's like, "I'm not leaving my family. I'm not leaving this country. I'm not." They loved each other. They had good everything, except they never spoke about compatibility. And they, in long term, are not compatible. Broken heart on both sides. Terrible story.
Yeah, that sounds like it'd be tragic to hear because communication could resolve that. And my answer to the question is, if relationships were saving, is I it's a general question and it's tough to answer specifically, but we have
Yep.
to figure out what is happening in that relationship to make you even think that. It could be a number of things. You don't feel valuable. This person is mistreating you. This person doesn't have the same goals as you. You're not compatible, to Andre's point, right? Like he wants to eventually retire in another part of the world and you don't want to retire. He wants to have kids, you don't want to have kids.
Yep.
You want to continue work until 65, he wants to retire 55. There's
You got
so
it.
many things going on. So my the way I would answer it, since it was a woman that asked the question, is this: when you look at the man that you're with, is he the type of man that you can see yourself living the rest of your life with? Does he make the world a better place for you? Does he make it a safer place for you? Does he make you into a better woman? Does he make you into a woman that you didn't think you could ever be for a man, right? That's as general as we can get. But outside
Mm.
of knowing the dynamic and what specifically is happening, like it could be that he cheated and you want to overlook that. For some people, it's possible. For some people, it's not.
Oh, yeah.
So
And
it is
interest.
tough.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. And it's like I said, overall, is there more love? Is there more? Is there more joy than pain? Right? Like everything is human. We gauge everything through, there's too much pain in this job. I need to go. And let me find a job that I'm happy doing more. Do you know what I mean? So we gauge everything with joy and pain. So like you're constantly watching the calibration, the same relationship. Are you experiencing more joy with the man and more pain? And if there's more pain, what is the pain? Bad communication, no communication, can't fight fairly. You can't bring anything up without starting a fight. Oh, this is when I come in. This is when I show up. Because all this stuff, these are things you have to learn, you know, because when you're, I'm going to say this, ladies, you often don't bring up the little thing to get on your nerves, right? Until it's too late. I'll tell you a little story. I call that keep the pancake plate like empty of pancake. Because, excuse me, we will hurt your feelings just because we're breathing. We forgot something, we said something, we forgot it hurt your feelings, right? So women experience this all the time where, the guy's whatever, and he does something, he says something, and you go, right? So she chokes a little bit. He has no idea he did that. This is a guy, right? We don't mean to hurt your feelings. We don't know, we just don't know what hurt your feelings. And sometimes we're aloof, and sometimes we're forgetful. Da 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 da. Get it, right? I'm not excusing men. I'm saying we don't know we're doing it, even though it's so obvious to you. But anyway, and so what happened is this: women kind of get, crispy a little bit, and they don't know how to bring it up because he's not. He's completely fine. He has no idea that he just made her mad, right? So she's in like this, and she goes for a walk, or go, go goes for a bubble bath, or just sort of like removes herself, gives herself to calm down, feeling better, because women are all driving their lives with their feelings. So now that she feels better, most women won't bring it up again. And she'll go, well, it's not a big deal. And, he shut, right? And so you kind of blow it off because you have more experience of bringing something up to a man that you thought was not a big deal, but you brought it up and he got mad. And now he's pushing back, and now you're more mad because you brought it up and he's pushing back, and now there's this disconnect, and boom. So now it's worse because now by bringing it up again, you actually created the break, the disconnection, right? And to a woman, that's scary. So women have learned that if they bring stuff up, often it goes the wrong way. So take a bubble bath, take a walk, come back and go, I'm just gonna let that go. Except they don't. They absolutely do not let anything go. So what happened is I called it the first pancake on the plate. There's a pancake on the plate. So she thinks she's no big deal. She put it down, and then a couple days later, a week later, something else. He can't believe it. Talks to her girlfriend. Oh, he's such a. Again, she calms down, doesn't bring it up because it usually goes badly. I'll just forget about it. Pancake number two. A few days later, pancake number three, pancake number four, and then five. And the pancake plate stacks up, right? Now, what's not fair about this is by not bringing it up, how can he correct? How can he apologize? How can he say, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. You're right. I totally forgot." You know, or that's not what I meant. Because often we hurt their feelings because they assume something, right? So this guy has no idea, right, that this pancake plate is being stacked against him because she's not bringing it up. Ladies, you all do this on some level, right? And I get it because you used to everything going to hell when you bring it up. He's always, always anyway. And then what happened? This is a true story. Happened to one of my clients. Makes a ton of money, super successful, right? Like the house and the thing and the fantastic lives, two kids, living in luxury, loves her. You know what I mean? Blah blah blah. And he says, I come out of my office, you know, with this cup of coffee, and he puts it on the counter. Now, she'd been spending 2 hours cleaning the kitchen. Do you know what I mean? Like finally just getting a deep scrub of the kitchen. So he doesn't know this in the office. So he comes out with his cup of coffee and he puts it on the counter and he walks out of the kitchen and she lost her mind. He says literally she became, Jekyll and Hyde. She completely lost my sweet, loving, adoring, happy wife lost her mind. And in the moment that she's losing it, right? He finds out this because he put the cup on the counter and he never appreciated that she does that. And he never, and then when I was saying, what she did is throw the whole plate at his head. Do you understand what I mean? All the injuries, the entire pancake plate went whoosh across the room right at his head. And now she's losing it because they're all stacked up. So there's a lot of energy on that, right? Because he put the cup on the counter. And remember the way he said, he's like, "Are you out of your mind?" He picks up the cup. He goes, this is what's ruining everything today. This cup. Look around. Look at our lives. Look at how we live. Look at what we created together. What are you freaking talking about, right? So very frustrated. And of course, now he's yelling. So it's even worse because she's yelling, he's yelling. Big blow up, right? That's not how you do it. Because what happens is, ladies, when you throw a pancake plate at anybody, man especially, right? We're warriors and fighters and hunters. You attack a warrior, you're gonna get attacked back. He's gonna have to defend himself, and you're gonna lose, which is why you always experience losing. Because when you're edgy, anxious, angry, and you're gonna lean in and put your foot down, it doesn't work. Again, it's not fighting fairly. He doesn't know where that comes from. It's too much. It's an attack. So I teach ladies to take the pancake off every time. That plate never gets stacked. There's no short stack coming at anybody ever. You have to find a way to clean up every little injuries because that's the only way for him to be able to apologize or adjust or fix it or understand or explain. That's not what I meant. That's not what I said. That's not at all what was happening. Let me explain calmly, and then the plate stays flat and empty. The other way, ladies, which tends to be what you do, he will push back, you will yell, and you'll be convinced more that he's a jerk and you can't talk to him and he doesn't care. But that's not how it's done. I'm just saying. Now, sometimes men do the same thing and the same exact solution, right? There's a way to do this. I call it adult to adult, as opposed to letting your emotion run you over and or trying to ignore it, ladies. You can't ignore your pains. You can't just put it away thinking, you blow it off. It doesn't matter. It's you're not wired that way. You're actually wired to remember every injury, and it's part of a survival instinct, by the way. So it's not even your fault, but that's how you're wired. Okay, let's work with that as opposed to do what doesn't work. Oh, I just went on a little rant there, didn't I?
I know, and I'm loving it because it gave me one final question
Bring it.
because you mentioned all of that is when will a woman know the man is ready to take the relationship to the next level? I guess next level could be, I'm guessing,
Yep.
is marriage.
Right.
Well, at least I'm hoping it is.
Well, and you said that earlier, right? Men have this, men are in control access to relationship. He has to decide, right? So you'll know that he wants to take it to the next level because he'll say, "Be my wife." He will announce it. Now, what is confusing for the ladies is not understanding how men get there. Men have a process. Again, they can't explain it. It's instinctual. I could teach you, I could explain it to you, but men, if you ask him why or how did it work, it's a progression of events. And they have markers, right? Can I make her happy? Does she get me? Can I be myself around her? Is she trying to change me? Like these things are like deal breakers for men. And they come in and out depending of, you know, circumstances. This is why men will date a woman a year and two to have been through all the circumstances to see if she fights fairly, right? If she's capable of negotiating the conflicts or to do the conflicts resolution fairly, that she's ultimately not trying to get on top of him, but really kind of, work it, fix it, that she fights fairly. Do you know what I mean? That there's no deal breakers, right? These things have to be discovered slowly, and men have this like record, like this. I have a document called the five things men absolutely need in order to even consider getting married. Five things, and it goes, small, medium as the relationship progresses. And if you get four ladies, this is important. If you got four yes out of five, you're not getting married. You're not getting married. He's not going to say it. He's going to, you're going to be his girlfriend and ongoing, and he'll do everything. He's going to play house with you, but he'll never make the big move if you're four out of five. You can't, right? It's not, you can't. It's something about the situation, the circumstances, your temperament, your something keeps him from pulling the trigger. I have a client, get this, she's been engaged 16 years. I go,
She's still
what?
there.
Yeah. I go, what do you mean? And she goes, well, I just don't need a marriage, I just, but he asked me to marry him like 16 years ago. I'm like, so are you trying to convince me or you? Because to me right now, you're trying to convince you of that because that's bullshit. And she goes, what do you mean? I go, like, there's a deal breaker here somewhere, right? So she lives with him. They've been together for 16 years, right? Excuse me. She's like she's hot little LA chick, blah blah blah. But I'm telling you, also a pain in the ass and kind of bossy. And he's rather passive. And I promise you, he feels disrespected by her enough that he tolerates her around 16 years. She lives with him, right? There's more good than bad, but he's not marrying her, right? So I guess because I know them too, I could see what's going on there. My point is like again, how do you know the man's going to take it to the top? He's going to take it to the top because he's going to announce it. Now, if you have four out of five, this is when I would come in to clean that up and find out what it is, both for him and your sake. Because for a woman, not knowing where something is going, dating a guy for 5 years or 16 freaking years without really him ever committing, it's it's really degrading, is I think is the word. Like it feels shitty, right? Like he won't do it. Like so, what is wrong with me, right? And women how kind of tend to go there a lot and beat themselves up. Like I'm not good enough for him, but you're good enough, but not quite. So my point is, if you get four out of five, it probably is easy. It's probably easy to fix the fifth and get everything you want.
I will
But
agree, and I'll answer it this way.
yeah,
The men will always know, and when they're ready to marry you or take you to that level, they will just say it. Ladies,
absolutely.
it's as simple as that. But on the flip side, because there are always the other group of men who do this, to Andre's point, there's some men out there that they will string you long as possible. And I'll give
Yep.
you an example. There's someone, this was maybe a year and a no, a couple of years ago. And she was dating someone and she ended up living with that person. The person moved in with her. And
Shaking my
they
head.
exactly. They're dating for they continued dating, and he said that, you know what, I'm gonna marry you, and they got engaged. No engagement ring. It was just one of those verbal ones, like you remember
Really?
that? Like I promised to be with you.
Yeah.
Remember those promise rings?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It was something like that. And one day she woke up 2 kids later,
Oh my God.
no marriage. They're still together. And she came to me. She asked me the question. She's like, Train, what happened? I was like, you're asking me what happened? Look in the mirror and ask yourself what happened. And I told her that you gave him one of the most important gifts in the world. And she was like, what? Children. You gave the man children. And what did he give you in return? She was like, well, we're together. I'm like, well, you're together before the children. You're together before you moved in. You're together before all this. There is no difference. Now you just added a title to your resume, as in motherhood. You're not a wife, you're whatever. And that was the end of the conversation that her and I had because she never talked to me ever again. But I share that to let people know that there's different levels to happiness, yes. But when you give a man something like that, the question should be, okay, I'm giving this. He's taking this. Ladies, he's taking your time, he's taking your womb, he's taking whatever. What are you getting in return? If you can't tell me something other than, well, he's here with me, there's a problem.
Amen. So for me, I call it, you're not negotiating the terms of the relationship. Like I said, if you're going to play perfect little wife with the guy having to do nothing to claim you to step up and you're going to move in with him or let him move in with you, by the way, ladies, please, a real man will never, ever, ever try to move in your house. I want to say it again. A real man, it would be humiliating for him to go, could I move into my landlord? Men don't do this. Boys will do it. So if you let a guy move into your house, thinking, it's the beginning of a continuation of a relationship, you're completely screwing it up. He doesn't want to take responsibility. You're making his life easier. It's backwards. So we got this to say. So if you're gonna play perfect little house, perfect little wife, you become a little wifey without any conditions, right? You sleep with him, you live with him, you share the bills, blah blah blah, but you never requested him to step up. You never requested or negotiated a commitment, a marriage, right? I say don't even don't ever move in with a man that you have not the if you want marriage, then you have to have that up front. If you said, like the idea of moving together because it's cheaper is exactly the formula for disaster. Don't do it, right? So unless you engage and actually engage with a ring and a date, don't move in with them. And don't do it, under a year because it takes a year to know who you're dealing with. So this, but ladies, ultimately, if you don't have any boundaries, any conditions, and the marriage is something that you don't want to bring forth because you don't want to lose him, so you're gonna act like perfect little wife and move in and have kids with a guy, and you think that you're gonna feel that you're gonna feel like the mistress because you kind of are. You're the girl on the side that you make his life easier and give him everything without a commitment. That one is on you. I hate to say, right? Because men will not do anything unless you require them to do it. Men will not do anything until he requires to do them. Whether it's marrying you, holding boundaries around sexuality, because you don't know what his intentions are with you, or to take out the trash. Like men won't do it unless you hold them up to it and you go, in order for me to work with you, for this to work, these are the conditions. These are the things we're gonna negotiate to talk about. So, moving with somebody without a contract, and a contract mean like this, I want to be married before this goes any further, or, My dating um strategies is to get married. So, I'm looking for a long-term relationship with babies and no babies, whatever you want, ladies, you have to hold them up to this. And in order for them to get the life with you, they have to they have to adhere to the contract that you, right? So it's up to you to really set up the dynamic. Again, if you require nothing from him, you won't do anything. You won't just do anything. If you make babies without being married, you don't make babies without being married. Right? Like seriously. I had a lady that came to me one time. This is a horrible story, but after I did a live event, and they hang around after a while just to talk to me personally. And she starts crying. She's devastated. I'm like, "What's the story?" She goes, I don't know what happened. I don't know how we got here. I can't believe they did that to me." I go, "Okay, what's the story?" She goes, we've been dating for like 3 years, and we have a 2-year-old little girl, and I just found out he has like four other girlfriends, and he's been cheating with me the whole time." Right? So I'm like, "This is horrible. I'm so sorry. This is terrible. How did you get here?" She goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "What do you mean? What do I mean? How did you get there? I mean, were you boyfriend and girlfriend? Were you engaged? Were you married?" "Well, oh, no, none of that." "So wait, you never were married?" "No." "Were you living together?" "No." "He came around once a week." Right? And I go, "You got pregnant?" "Yeah." In her mind, the fact that he kept showing up and they had a baby, she thought they were having a family. Never talked about it, never negotiated the thing, never said, "Where do where do you spend the rest of your week?" And, she just thought it was just happening. And the guy was a player. He does what a lot of guys do when they especially have no ethics and they just want to play. They play a different bed every night. And she let herself get pregnant, but I guarantee you, she was a sweet lady. She actually thought that nature was happening. It was just developing. Never had the conversation, never set the boundaries. He never moved in with her. They never were together. They were in, like, is my boyfriend. I go, "You don't make a baby with a boyfriend. You make a baby with a husband. You never require that." So I feel terrible for you, but like, if you don't make men step up and you give them everything, they don't have to do anything, they'll take it, especially the boys, right? Like, I hate to say, but boundaries, 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 contracts. In order for me to do this with you, I require this, this, and this. Oh, you don't want to do it? See ya. Because boys will step off. And men will find you more valuable for having boundaries around, especially your sexuality up front. It doesn't make him go away, it brings him closer because all of a sudden you're trustworthy and you have virtue. And those are the qualities the men look for in wives. So my men don't wife you up if you're too, if you have no boundaries. I'm just going to say it. I don't want to be more direct than that.
Andre, let everyone know where they can find you as we wrap up today.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I have a couple of gifts, you know that, right, for our listeners. So if you guys are curious, I notice when I do podcasting and the Q&As and stuff like this, is typically two types of listeners. So some listeners are here because they're curious, they want some information, they're poking around in this stuff, right? Uh, if you're a person looking for information, if you're a lady especially, I have this 25-minute workshop that I produced, and it's actually explained to you ladies in the world where you're supposed to have it all, right? You're supposed to be a boss and a mother and a wife, and a woman nowadays to be valuable has to do and be everything. Well, it's unrealistic. Not the way the culture is calling it anyway. So it's the workshop is called "How do you get to be balanced in both the love lane and the money lane?" Right? Women expected to work in the world, right? Absolutely. But if you work too much, the love lane suffers or is impossible. If you go in the love lane, and the money lane suffers, right? So how who how do you get to have it all? So anyway, so if you go direct, I want to send everybody to my direct email. If you go to Andre Coaching, the number one at Gmail, AndreCoaching, number one at Gmail, and in the subject box, write workshop. I will send you the workshop for free. It's 25 minutes. Like I said, it'll give you a sense of what I talk about, what I do, a little bit more than we did here. and it'll give you some guidelines on how it is that is a possibility for a woman in the modern times to have it all, but it's not what the culture is teaching you. Interesting stuff. Okay, so that's for one gift number one for information seekers. And gift number two is for people who are more action takers. All right, I want to talk to this dude, right? So something tickled you, you resonate with what I'm saying, right? I have a lot of experiences in my life. This is my work. This is not a hobby. This is how I pay the rent, the mortgage, and the cars, right? So if anything I said resonated and you want to talk to me directly, Andre Coaching One in the subject box, right? Talk now. I will send you a link to my calendar. You'll find yourself an hour VIP exploratory call, I call it, where we'll have a conversation like this, like me and Terrain right now, like side by side on Zoom, one on one, and we'll talk about what's not working when you find yourself stuck. Why, because people get a little bit, what's the word? I don't want to say desperate, but desperate when they realize that they're stuck in a loop, right? Can't get a good relationship, always the same ending, which is crash and burn, right? Whether it's a man or a woman, right? The same results, same results, same result. Can't get the right person to show up. What's wrong with me? What's right? Like, so that's the what I call the warning light. The check engine light is flashing. Like this isn't working. There's something here you don't understand. So if you're an action taker, Under Coaching One, talk now. I'll send you calendar link, and we'll talk about what's not working in your world, why it's not working. All of us, all of us, none of us get out of childhood unscathed. So in my world, it's always a reflection. If you're a masculine woman and you can't be vulnerable, you will attract feminine men, you will attract boys, and you'll think that's men. Now, there's a reason for this based in childhood circumstances. Bad daddy, no daddy, right? If you didn't feel safe as a little girl, you're gonna man up and not be able to step into your feminine, which is later on in life creates that kind of dynamic. Same with men. Men who are feminine typically didn't have father role models, overly mothered by their mothers. So eventually they never really got their balls, right? They're castrated by too much cuddling. And at the age of 13 forward, like if they don't get this before the age of 13, they end up thinking that women are here to serve them. Those are the boys, right? They're traumatized out of their manhood, like the women, the young ladies not feeling safe are traumatized out of their femininity. So the people who really struggle and they think, what's wrong with me? I keep attracting the same type of person. In that call, in 15 minutes, we'll go right to source. We'll find out what happened, where the wheels came off, and then realize that there's nothing wrong with you. Your product will be passed. And when we know there's nothing wrong with you and it's fixable, that's the work that I do, the baggage release, I call it emotional release, right? To get this injury off your nervous system, because I can't get anybody in a healthy relationship with you baggage from the past. Can't. So we got to take